In many parts of the Philippines, there are stories that people hesitate to tell, not because they are unbelievable, but because the people who speak about them do so carefully, as if remembering something they would rather leave buried. These are not stories meant to entertain. They are stories meant to explain why certain places still feel wrong. Old churches, abandoned convents, and narrow roads built beside them are often said to remember what happened there, not metaphorically, literally, as if the ground itself absorbed events too violent, too sudden to disappear. One of those remembered events is known as the Headless priest. I didn't hear this story as a child. I heard it much later, from adults who paused before speaking, who lowered their voices instinctively, who never laughed while telling it. They said the priest was real. According to church records and oral history passed down through generations, there was once a parish priest assigned to a remote provincial town during the Spanish era. Travel was difficult then. Communication was limited. Priests often walked alone at night to visit the sick, perform last rites, or hear confessions after curfew. This priest was known for exactly that. He walked alone. Late one night, after visiting a dying parishioner, he never returned to the church. Searchers found his body early the next morning along a narrow road behind the church grounds, a route he had taken many times before. There were no signs of robbery, no witnesses officially recorded, no explanation that satisfied the people who lived there. But there was one detail everyone remembered. The priest's body was found without his head. Authorities classified the case as a violent crime. The investigation was closed quickly, quietly, and without much public discussion. But among the townspeople, the story did not end there. Because after the burial, people began to see him again. At first, the sightings were dismissed. A figure in white seen at night, a man walking near the church road, a shadow mistaken for something else. Until the descriptions started to match. Always a priest, always wearing a cassock, always carrying a rosary, and always without a head. Witnesses described no blood, no wounds, no violence. Just an absence where his face should have been. As reports increased, patterns emerged. The objects almost always occurred between 1 and 3 in the morning. The figure was only seen along old church routes, and never once was he seen entering or leaving a location. He was always walking. Jeepney drivers were among the first to change their behavior. Late-night routes were shortened. Certain roads were avoided without explanation. Tricycle drivers refused passengers after midnight. When asked why, their answers were simple. It's better not to notice him. Because according to those who did, something else happened. Several witnesses claimed the priest could sense when someone truly saw him, not as a shadow, not as a trick of darkness, but as what he was. The moment recognition happened, he would stop walking, not suddenly, not violently. He would simply stop. Documentary realism. Those who experienced this described physical sensations rather than fear, a heaviness in the chest, a pressure that made breathing difficult, a deep emotional weight that didn't belong to them. One man described it as sadness that wasn't his own. He said it felt like standing beside someone who had lost something important and never found it. In Philippine folklore, there is a belief that souls who die violently, especially without closure, remain incomplete. Until certain conditions are met, justice, recognition, or physical wholeness, the spirit cannot rest. This belief is often used to explain the headless priest. He is not described as angry, he does not chase, he does not harm. He walks. Years passed. Roads were widened. The church was renovated. Modern buildings replaced old structures. But the sightings never fully stopped. Security guards working night shifts reported motion alerts on CCTV cameras with no visible figures. Footage repeatedly corrupted between 1 and 3 in the morning. Always the same hours. One former guard said he saw the priest standing only a few meters away, close enough to hear the faint sound of a rosary moving. But when he looked above the collar, there was nothing there. The guard resigned days later. He refused to give details. He only said that some things should not be interrupted. To this day, elders still warn people not to mock the story, not to challenge the road, not to walk alone near old churches late at night. Not because the priest is dangerous, but because he is unfinished. And if you ever find yourself walking alone near an old church road, and you see a priest ahead of you, moving slowly through the dark, do not follow him, do not speak. And whatever you do, do not look up.